Yet another new speaker has been announced. And of course, this is regarding the World Computer Day event, which is supposedly going to be taking place on January 20th in 2026. Dfinity made a post about this not too long ago, and even though nothing I say is financial advice, it is about Ronit. And again, he's going to be the speaker that's going to be talking at this event alongside other speakers as well. But this is the most recent one they announced. The thing is this, Ronit, from what I can see in this post, the global head of future of finance at Citi. And of course, Citi, it's very popular. You know, even one of my friends' dad, right, used to work at Citi. But besides that point, when I take a look at this event right here, I think it's shaping up to be a little bit different than what was perceived previously. Now, granted, when it comes to ICP as of right now, we're seeing a slight recovery. But I think an event like this showcases a little bit that Dfinity is taking it seriously. Because if it wasn't, would stuff like this really be happening, right? These speakers, they have jobs, they have careers, they have things to do. Speaking at an event takes a lot of effort, time, energy. So when they do something like that, I think it kind of showcases the way in which they perceive the event to be. However, when I take a look at ICP as of right now, it's above $3. I'm pretty elated to see that in the past week, the recovery has been almost 17%. Granted, people like to say, well, how's that impressive? But really, in the grand scheme of things, at least it's something, right? However, I think moments like this does showcase to me that I will never be able to know a bottom. There's just no way I'm going to be able to know that, which is why I never try to find the quote-unquote bottom. What I do is I just do things once a month, incrementally, right? I just dollar cost average once a month. But that's just personally what I'm doing. I'm not telling anyone to do anything. But when it comes to ICP, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's still down by quite a lot, over 30 times lower than $100. Totally aware of that. It's still down around 70% in the past year. However, to me, because I still see that ICP, despite the slight recovery, is still down by quite a lot, this is not a situation in which I would necessarily complain about either, despite me seeing the slight recovery that happened, because this is very minuscule in the grand scheme of things, this recovery. ICP is still down by quite a lot, but I'm not necessarily concerned because if one of my favorite projects is down and I'm still dollar cost averaging anyways, this is not a moment in which I would be unhappy. This is my perception. And especially, again, seeing something like the World Computer Day event being taken seriously, because a lot of my friends thought it wasn't, but seems like it's being treated seriously, to me at least, because there's more speakers. I just seem to like what Dfinity is doing so far, and I think it's a good start to 2026 in terms of the event, right? In terms of the price, we'll have to wait and see when it comes to ICP, even though so far I've seen a slight recovery, but only time will tell. But actually, people like to ask me sometimes, what is on my mind? Now, hypothetically, I'm still thinking about $100 when it comes to ICP. At a hypothetical idea of around a $54 billion market cap, in which it would have, considering current circulating supply at $100, considering how something like BNB pretty much doubled that years ago in 2021 at one point, I don't know if it's anything that sort of jarring to me, if maybe hypothetically I did see something like that, because I just don't see such a drastic increase in competitors in which actually have the use case and the fundamentals that could kind of rival something like the internet computer. Because years ago, there was still that core group of projects, right? Like a Solana, like an Ethereum and all this. But as of right now, that core group is still kind of pretty much more or less the same projects. So when it comes to ICP, right now, within this space, there's over 600 million owners. Back then, there was around 300 million at the peak of the 2021 cycle. Also, in terms of the quality, in terms of the competitors, I don't feel like that many popped up, right? There's more in terms of the quantity overall, but not in terms of really the quality, in my perspective, in some cases. But then now there's just way more owners than before, right? So this is why I just haven't really given up on the hypothetical idea of 100. This is sometimes my mindset. But we'll wait and see what happens, because even if I take a look at it, just let's say back in 2024, which is, I get it, right? It's like quite a while ago, but still, in April of 2024, the price of ICP at that point was nearly $19, right? So if we just assume like 20 just to make it a little bit simpler, 100, that was just 5 times away. And I don't think that was even altcoin season. It wasn't over 20 times, 30 times. It was just 5 times away from that. And did anyone really think that April of 2024 was an altcoin season? I don't. And even at that point, it was basically around 5 times lower than 100. Without altcoin season, without much talks about what is ever going on when it comes to chain fusion in such a massive way, in my perspective, without really much talks about what was ever going on with Caffeine AI, which is a self-writing apps platform, without really much talks about what chain fusion did when it comes to Dogecoin, Solana, and Bitcoin, And it still did that. And also, really, I think even back then, the narrative when it comes to AI wasn't really that awesome or anything like that when it comes to the internet computer. It just wasn't really there, in my opinion, right back then. Now, there's kind of that narrative because we see kind of the emphasis when it comes to Dfinity talking about decentralized AI and all this type of stuff. So if a project without altcoin season was able to do that back then, what could it do if there was an altcoin season now that the fundamentals are better? Sometimes that's what I think about, which is why I'm still staying patient. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but I'm still holding, I'm still waiting, because whatever happens in the next year or so, whether I'm in this space or not, it's going to do its thing with or without me. But I'm just a little bit curious to see what could happen. So I'm just waiting.